Lisa Martinez sat perfectly still in her chair as the alien voices grew louder. Around her, the massive council chamber of Concordia Prime stretched out like a metal cave, filled with creatures from dozens of different worlds. Some looked like walking crystals that sparkled under the bright lights. Others had tentacles that moved like angry snakes. The bird-like ones flapped their wings when they got excited, which happened a lot during these meetings. She had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years now, and every day felt the same. The aliens would argue about trade, routes, mining rights, and territory disputes. They would ignore whatever humans had to say. Then they would make decisions that hurt Earth's colonies while pretending to care about fairness. Today was no different. High Curator Vextol, a Zephyrian with purple tentacles and too many eyes, was complaining about human ships near the Kepler belt. His voice sounded like metal scraping against stone when he spoke through the translation device. The humans continue to send their primitive vessels into space that clearly belongs to more advanced species, Vextol said, his tentacles waving in what Lisa knew meant disgust. Perhaps they do not understand the concept of boundaries. War Speaker Kredak, a 7ft tall bird creature with razor-sharp talons, clicked his beak. Agreement. The young species often struggle with such complex ideas. We should be patient with their simple minds. Lisa felt her jaw muscles tighten, but she kept her diplomatic smile in place. Jake Peterson, sitting beside her, noticed the small change. He had been her aide for 3 years and knew all her tells. The former military officer shifted slightly in his seat, ready to step in if needed. Honored delegates, Lisa said, standing slowly and smoothly. Humanity appreciates the Council's wisdom in these matters. However, I must respectfully point out that the Kepler Belt Mining Agreement clearly states that all signatory species have equal access to the outer asteroid fields. Counselor Thren of the Nexus Collective made a sound like grinding gears. The mechanical beings read optical sensors focused on Lisa with what she had learned to recognize as annoyance. The agreement assumes all species have the technology to safely extract resources without damaging the environment. Perhaps humans should focus on developing such capabilities before claiming equal rights. Several other delegates made sounds of agreement. The crystalline Veridians chimed like breaking glass, which meant they found something amusing. Lisa had spent years learning all these alien behaviors, studying their cultures, trying to understand how to work with them. They had spent the same years treating her people like children who should be grateful for any scraps thrown their way. Of course, Counselor Thren, Lisa replied, her voice calm and measured. Earth is always eager to learn from our more experienced neighbors. Perhaps the Nexus Collective would be willing to share some of their advanced mining techniques through a technology exchange program. Thren's optical sensors dimmed, which Lisa knew meant he was annoyed at being put on the spot. The Nexus Collective jealously guarded their technology. Just like every other species in the Council, they wanted the benefits of cooperation without actually cooperating. Such matters require extensive review. Thren said finally, the Collective cannot simply hand over advanced technology to species that may not be ready for such responsibility. War Speaker Kredak spread his wings slightly. a sign of dominance among his people. Indeed, we must consider the safety of the entire galaxy. Some species have a history of using technology for violent purposes. Lisa felt something cold settle in her stomach. The bird creature was talking about humanity's wars, as if every other species in the council hadn't fought their own bloody conflicts. The difference was that humans were honest about their past, while aliens pretended their violence never happened. War Speaker Kredak raises an important point. High Curator Vextal added, his tentacles curling with satisfaction. Perhaps it would be wise for humanity to demonstrate their peaceful intentions more clearly before requesting equal treatment. Matters of galactic importance. Jake Peterson's hand moved slightly toward his data pad, a motion so small that only Lisa noticed it. She gave an almost invisible shake of her head. Not yet, not today. Humanity has maintained peaceful relations with all council species for 30 years, Lisa said, keeping her voice level. Our colonies have never attacked anyone. Our ships have never fired on alien vessels. Our diplomats have always sought compromise and understanding. Yes, Vextal said, and Lisa could hear the condescension dripping from his translated words. You have been very well behaved, like good students learning from their teachers. The chamber filled with the various sounds that different species made when they were amused, chimes, clicks, grinding noises, and stranger sounds that the translation system couldn't properly convert. They were laughing at her, at humanity. Again, Lisa Martinez had been trained in the finest diplomatic schools on Earth. She had studied xenopsychology, alien languages, and interspecies relations. She had learned to smile when insulted, to compromise when wronged, and to seek understanding when faced with contempt. For 5 years she had done her job perfectly. For 5 years she had watched her people be like backward children who should be grateful for any attention from their betters. She had listened to aliens dismiss human achievements, mock human culture, and ignore human rights. She had smiled and nodded and asked for compromise while her people suffered. The worst part was that it worked. The other species saw exactly what they expected to see. A weak, peaceful species that could be safely ignored. They had no idea what humanity was actually capable of. They had no idea what they were really dealing with. The Council appreciates humanity's continued cooperation, announced Council Speaker Morgan, the ancient slug-like creature who ran the sessions. The mining rights issue will be taken under advisement for further review, which meant it would be buried in committee and forgotten, just like every other human concern. Lisa sat down, her diplomatic smile still perfectly in place. Around her, the other delegates began discussing the next item on the agenda as if nothing important had just happened. Jake Peterson leaned slightly toward her and whispered, "Same as always, Ambassador." "Same as always," Lisa agreed quietly. But something had changed in her voice that made Jake look at her more carefully. Something cold and sharp that hadn't been there before. Something that would have worried him if he had known what it meant. Lisa Martinez sat in her chair and continued to smile politely while the aliens talked around her. But inside her mind, she was already counting days until the next colony ship would pass through the Kepler belt. She was thinking about how long humanity had been patient, how long they had been understanding, how long they had been pretending to be something they were not. Lisa Martinez was drinking her morning coffee when the emergency message came through. The red light on her communication panel flashed 3 times, then stayed solid. That meant only one thing: a code black emergency from Earth. Command. Jake Peterson burst through her office door without knocking, his face pale and his hands shaking slightly. Ambassador, you need to see this right now. Lisa set down her cup and activated the secure channel. Admiral Kate Morrison's face appeared on the screen, her normally calm expression tight with barely controlled anger. Lisa, I'm sending you the preliminary report now. The colony ship New Horizon was attacked and destroyed 6 hours ago while passing through the Kepler belt. All hands lost, 50,000 souls. The words hit Lisa like a physical blow. She gripped the edge of her desk, feeling the room spin around her. All of them. Everyone. The ship broke apart completely. We've recovered some debris and several distress beacons, but there were no survivors. The passenger manifest included 15,000 children under the age of 10. Jake sank into a chair, his face now completely white. Lisa stared at the screen, trying to process what she was hearing. 50,000 people, families who had sold everything they owned for a chance at a new life on the frontier worlds. Children who would never grow up. Scientists, teachers, farmers, engineers, all gone in an instant. What do we know about the attackers? Lisa asked, her voice sounding strained and distant to her own ears. Admiral Morrison's expression grew even darker. The debris pattern and energy signatures matched Zephyrian plasma weapons. Long-range scanners detected at least 3 ships fleeing toward the mining stations that the Council just granted to High Curator Vextol's people. Lisa felt something cold and hard settle in her chest. The same aliens who had dismissed human concerns just 3 days ago, the same creatures who had laughed at humanity's peaceful nature, the same tentacled monsters who had been given exclusive rights to mine the very asteroids where human families now floated dead in space. I'm calling in emergency council session, Lisa said. Lisa, Admiral Morrison said quietly. There's something else. The attack wasn't random. The pirates knew exactly which route New Horizon was taking. They were waiting in position. Someone gave them the flight plan. The implications hit Lisa like a second blow. The flight plans were only shared with council members for safety coordination. Someone in that chamber of alien delegates had handed over the information that led to the massacre of 50,000 humans. Get me everything, Lisa said. Every piece of evidence, every scan, every fragment of debris. And Admiral, send word to the other colony ships, all of them change their routes immediately. Already done. And Lisa, the President wants to know if you need any special support for the emergency session. Lisa looked at Jake, who was still staring at the floor in shock. She thought about the alien delegates who would soon gather in the council chamber. She thought about their dismissive voices and condescending attitudes. She thought about 50,000 dead humans, including children who had never done anything wrong except be born into a species that other creatures considered inferior. No special support needed, Admiral. I can handle this. 2 hours later, Lisa stood before the emergency council session. The chamber was only half full, as many delegates had claimed they could not arrive on such short notice. High Curator Vextol was there, his purple tentacles moving in slow, lazy patterns. War Speaker Credoc perched on his speaking platform, his sharp eyes focused on Lisa with what might have been curiosity. Counselor Thran's red optical sensors glowed steadily as he processed information through his mechanical systems. Honored delegates, Lisa began, her voice steady despite the rage burning in her chest. I come before you today with terrible news. The human colony ship New Horizon, carrying 50,000 civilians, was attacked and destroyed while traveling through the Kepler Belt mining zone. Several delegates made noises of what could have been sympathy, others remained silent. High Curator Vexthol's tentacles stopped moving entirely, which Lisa knew meant he was paying close attention. The evidence strongly suggests that Zulfirian pirates operating from mining stations in that region were responsible for this unprovoked attack on innocent civilians. Now Vexthol's tentacles began moving in sharp, angry motions. Ambassador Martinez makes serious accusations without proof. The Zulfirian collective does not control the actions of independent criminals who may happen to use our equipment. The energy signatures match Zulfirian military-grade plasma weapons, Lisa replied, activating a holographic display that showed the debris analysis. The attack ships fled directly to stations registered under Zulfirian mining permits. The attackers knew the exact flight path of New Horizon, information that was only shared with council members. War Speaker Credoc clicked his beak several times. Regrettable, certainly, but space is dangerous, and civilian vessels should not travel through contested areas without proper military escort. Perhaps this tragedy will teach humanity to be more careful about where they send their people. Lisa stared at the bird creature for a long moment. 50,000 dead humans, and his response was that it was their own fault for existing in the wrong place at the wrong time. 15,000 children, Lisa said quietly. The youngest was 3 years old. Her name was Emma Chen. She wanted to be a doctor like her mother. Counselor Thren's optical sensors flickered. Emotional appeals do not change the facts of space travel safety. All species face such risks when they venture beyond their home systems. Indeed, High Curator Vexthal added, his translated voice carrying no trace of sympathy. Perhaps the human government should focus on improving their defensive capabilities rather than expecting the galaxy to provide safety for their inadequate vessels. Lisa felt something break inside her chest. Not her heart, which had already shattered when she heard about the children. Something else. Something that had been holding her back for 5 long years of diplomatic service. She looked around the IAA chamber at the alien faces watching her with indifference or barely concealed contempt. These creatures had dismissed her people. For 30 years, they had treated humans like annoying children who should be grateful for any scraps of attention. They had laughed at human peace efforts and mocked human attempts at cooperation. And now 50,000 humans were dead. And these same aliens were essentially saying it was humanity's fault for not being strong enough to deserve survival. Lisa Martinez had been trained to find compromise in any situation. She had been taught to seek understanding even with the most difficult opponents. She had learned to smile and nod and accept whatever scraps the powerful were willing to offer to the weak. But as she looked at High Curator Vexthal's smug tentacles and War Speaker Kredek's cold eyes and Counselor Thren's emotionless censors, Lisa realized that some situations could not be solved with diplomacy. Some enemies could not be reasoned with. Some crimes could not be forgiven. She stood perfectly still for 30 seconds, while the chamber waited to see how the human would respond to having her people's massacre dismissed as their own fault. Around her, the aliens shifted in their seats or made small noises of impatience. Then Lisa Martinez looked directly into the recording devices that broadcast council sessions across the galaxy and spoke 3 words that would change everything. Polite mode off. The chamber fell completely silent after Lisa spoke those 3 words. Even the usual background hum of the translation system seemed to pause. Every alien delegate leaned forward, slightly sensing that something important had just changed, but not understanding what. Lisa Martinez stood perfectly still for another moment, then smiled. But this was not the diplomatic smile she had worn for 5 years. This smile was cold and sharp, like a blade hidden behind silk. For 30 years, Lisa said, her voice calm and clear, humanity has been very polite. We have said please and thank you. We have accepted your insults with grace. We have treated your dismissal of our people as simple misunderstanding rather than deliberate cruelty. High Curator Vexthal's tentacles began moving in confused patterns. Ambassador Martinez appears to be experiencing emotional distress. Perhaps she should return when she can speak rationally. Oh, I'm being perfectly rational, Lisa replied. For the first time in 5 years, I am being completely honest. You see, honored delegates, humanity made a choice when we joined this council. We decided that being seen as weak was better than being seen as a threat. Jake Peterson stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. He activated a holographic display that none of the aliens had ever seen before. The image showed a massive space station, bristling with weapons surrounded by sleek warships that looked nothing like the simple vessels humanity usually flew. This is Fortress Alpha, Jake said, one of 12 hidden military bases that humanity has built over the past 20 years. Each one is larger than this council station and armed with weapons that none of your species have ever encountered. Gasps and shocked noises filled the chamber. War Speaker Kredek's wings spread wide in alarm. Counselor Thuron's optical sensors blazed brighter as he tried to process what he was seeing. Impossible, Vextal said, his tentacles writhing. Our intelligence networks would have detected such construction projects. Lisa's cold smile grew wider. Your intelligence networks have been watching exactly what we wanted them to watch. Did you really think that a species capable of faster than light travel couldn't hide a few construction projects if they wanted to? The holographic display changed to show a map of the galaxy. Hundreds of red dots appeared scattered throughout space in positions that made several delegates gasp in recognition. Every red dot is a human military installation, Jake explained. Some are hidden bases, others are weapons. Platforms disguised as research. Station, a few are just supply depots. For our intelligence network. Intelligence network. War Speaker Credex's voice came out as a harsh screech. Oh yes, Lisa said, walking slowly around the chamber like a teacher addressing particularly slow students. Every human trader who has visited your worlds, every human diplomat who has attended your cultural exchanges, every human scientist who has collaborated on your research projects. They were all gathering information. She stopped directly in front of High Curator Vextol. We know about the inn. Your military command structure, we know. Which of your officers can be bought and which ones are too stupid to be effective. We know about the 3 different rebellion movements in your outer colonies that you have been trying to hide from the council. Vexthal's tentacles went completely still, which Lisa knew meant he was terrified. She moved towards Speaker Kryduk. We know that your proud warrior culture is entirely dependent on tribute payments from weaker species. We know that your homeworld's economy will collapse within 6 months if those payments stop. We know about the secret meetings where your war leaders discuss which species to attack next. The bird creature's talons extended, involuntarily scratching gauges in his metal perch. Lisa walked to Counselor Thren. And we know that the Great Nexus Collective is running low on the rare metals that power your mechanical bodies. We know about the resource wars you have been planning against 3 different species. We know that your perfect unity is actually held together by fear and threats. Thren's optical sensors dimmed too. Almost nothing. You see, Lisa continued, returning to the center of the chamber. While you were all busy treating us like ignorant children, we were learning everything there was to know about each of you, your strengths, your weaknesses, your fears, your plans, your dirty secrets. The holographic display changed again, showing detailed military analyses of each major species. Ship counts, weapon capabilities, supply lines, command structures, all laid out with frightening precision. This is what humans do, Jake said. We study, we learn, we prepare, and most importantly, we remember every insult, every dismissal, every moment of contempt. But why? Asked Council Speaker Morden, the ancient slug creature's voice shaking. Why hide your true nature? Why pretend to be weak? Lisa looked at him with something that might have been pity. Because we learned from our own history. When strong species announce their strength, everyone else bands together to destroy them. But when they think you are harmless, they ignore you until it is too late. You have been planning this deception for 30 years. Vexthal asked. Not deception, Lisa corrected, strategy. Everything we told you was true. Humans do prefer peace to war. We do believe in cooperation and understanding. We do want to build a better galaxy for everyone. Her expression hardened. But we also learned that some people mistake kindness for weakness. They think that because we choose not to hurt them, it means we cannot hurt them. They are wrong. The chamber erupted in panicked conversations as delegates began talking urgently among themselves. Some were already sending emergency messages to their home governments. Others were calculating how quickly they could get their fleets into defensive positions. The attack on New Horizon proved that Our peaceful approach has failed, Lisa announced, her voice cutting through the chaos. 50,000 civilians are dead because we tried to work within your broken system. Because we trusted that rational beings would eventually choose cooperation over cruelty. She gestured to the holographic display surrounding the chamber. But you are not rational beings, you are bullies who mistake restraint for inability. You think that because humans smile and compromise, it means we have no other options. Jake activated another display, this one showing real-time positions of human ships throughout the galaxy. The aliens stared in horror as they realized that humanity had vessels within striking distance of every major world, every trade route, every military installation. We are done being polite, Lisa said. We are done accepting your insults and dismissals. We are done pretending that your contempt for human life is just a cultural misunderstanding. She looked directly at High Curator Vextal. The pirates who killed our people came from your territory. They used your weapons. They had information that only came from this council. You will find them and turn them over for justice, or we will come and get them ourselves. You cannot threaten the sovereignty of council member species, War Speaker Kredak protested. I am not threatening anything, Lisa replied calmly. I am explaining reality. The old system where humanity begged for scraps of respect while you ignored our basic rights is over. The new system starts now. She activated her own communication device and spoke clearly. Admiral Morrison, this is Ambassador Martinez. Execute Phase 1. Across the galaxy, human ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels and research platforms suddenly activated. Military-grade sensors and weapon systems, trade routes that had been protected by alien patrols found themselves under human control. Strategic positions that had seemed unimportant were revealed as key military assets. Humanity is withdrawing from the Galactic Council, Lisa announced as alarms began sounding throughout Concordia Prime. All treaties and agreements are void as of this moment. What happens next depends entirely on how quickly you learn to treat us with the respect that 50,000 dead civilians deserved. The alarm stopped ringing after 10 minutes, but the chaos in the council chamber continued. Delegates were shouting into communication devices in dozens of different languages. Some were trying to contact their home governments, others were demanding explanations from their military commanders about how human ships had appeared in their space without warning. Lisa Martinez stood calmly in the center of it all, watching the panic with the same cold smile she had worn since declaring that humanity's polite mode was off. Jake Peterson remained beside her, occasionally updating the holographic displays to show new information as reports came in from across the galaxy. Order! Council Speaker Morden finally bellowed, his ancient voice cutting through the noise. This session will come to order immediately. The various delegates slowly settled back into their seats, but Lisa could see the fear in their eyes. Even War Speaker Kredak, who belonged to a species that prided itself on courage in battle, kept his wings folded tightly against his body in a defensive posture. Ambassador Martinez, Morden said, his voice shaking slightly. What you have revealed today changes Nothing about galactic law. The Council has procedures for addressing grievances. You cannot simply abandon the system that has maintained peace for centuries. Lisa laughed, and the sound made several aliens flinch. Peace? You call this peace? Tell me, Council. Speaker, how many smaller species have been wiped out by stronger ones while this Council maintained your version of peace? How many colonies have been raided by pirates operating from the territory of Council members? How many trade disputes have been settled by forcing weaker species to accept whatever terms the powerful decided to offer? She gestured toward the displays showing human military positions. This is not peace. This is a protection racket where the strong take whatever they want and the weak are told to be grateful for whatever scraps remain. High Curator Vexthal had been silent since Lisa revealed humanity's knowledge of Zypherian corruption. But now his tentacles began moving in angry patterns. Even if your accusations have merit, you cannot hold the entire galaxy hostage because of the actions of a few criminals. A few criminals. Lisa's voice became dangerously quiet. Let me tell you about these few criminals, High Curator. In the past 5 years alone, ships flying under Zypherian registry have attacked 17 different human vessels. Each time we filed formal complaints with this Council, each time we were told that the Zypherian government could not be held responsible for the actions of independent pirates. Jake activated a new display showing incident reports and casualty lists. 837 dead humans, all killed by pirates using Zypherian weapons operating from Zypherian bases, selling their stolen cargo in Zypherian markets. Lisa continued, her voice growing colder with each word. And what did this Council do? Nothing. You told us that space was dangerous and humans should accept the risks of travel. You suggested that we hire Zypherian security companies to protect our ships from Zypherian pirates. You treated murder and theft as acceptable business practices. War Speaker Kredok tried to interrupt. The Talaxian military has offered protection services to many species. We cannot be expected to provide free security to every merchant vessel in the galaxy. Protection services, Lisa repeated. You mean extortion, pay the Talaxian military or suffer attacks from pirates who happen to avoid Talaxian ships? Another coincidence, I suppose. The holographic display changed to show shipping records and attack patterns. The evidence was overwhelming. Species that paid tribute to the Talaxians rarely suffered pirate attacks, while those who refused found their vessels targeted regularly. And you, Counselor Thren, Lisa said, turning to the mechanical being. The Nexus Collective has been the most subtle in your exploitation. You offer technological assistance to developing species, then slowly make them dependent on your systems. When they cannot pay your maintenance fees, you repossess their infrastructure and leave entire worlds without power or communication. Thren's optical sensors flickered rapidly. The Collective provides valuable services. Our contracts are clearly written and legally binding. Legally binding according to laws written by the Collective and enforced by Council members who benefit from the arrangement. Lisa shot back. Slavery with extra steps and better paperwork. She walked slowly around the chamber, making eye contact with each delegate as She spoke. For 30 years, humanity has documented every injustice, every abuse of power, every moment when this council chose to protect the strong and abandon the weak. We have the records of every species that has been exploited, enslaved, or destroyed, while you maintained your so-called peace. The chamber fell silent except for the quiet hum of the translation systems. Several delegates were staring at their feet, unable to meet Lisa's gaze. But we also documented something else. Lisa continued. We learned that most of you are not actually as strong as you pretend to be. Your military advantages depend on weaker species being too scattered and frightened to work together. Your economic dominance requires victims who have no other options. Jake brought up a new display showing detailed economic analyses. The Zephyrian economy depends on stolen goods, making up 30% of their gross domestic product. The Talaxian military cannot function without tribute payments from 12 different species. The Nexus Collective requires rare metals from conquered worlds to maintain their mechanical bodies. Strip away the victims and your entire system collapses, Lisa said, which is exactly what humanity is going to do. She activated her communication device. Again, Admiral Morrison, execute Phase 2. Across the galaxy, human ships began broadcasting on all frequencies. The messages were simple and direct. Any species currently being exploited by Council members could request immediate protection from the human fleet. Pirates operating from Council territory would be hunted down and destroyed. Trade routes would be secured by human patrols free of charge. Within minutes, responses began flooding in. Dozens of smaller species that had suffered under the current system immediately requested human assistance. Several worlds announced they were breaking their contracts with the Nexus Collective. 3 different species declared they would no longer pay tribute to the Talaxian military. You are destroying the stability of the galaxy, Morgan protested, his ancient voice cracking with strain. No, Lisa replied firmly. We are destroying a system built on exploitation and fear. What we build to replace it will actually be stable because it will be based on justice instead of oppression. She looked directly at the recording devices broadcasting the session across the galaxy. Humanity makes this offer to every species watching this transmission. We will protect you from bullies and pirates. We will trade with you fairly and honestly. We will share technology and knowledge freely. We will treat you with the respect that every sentient species deserves. Her expression hardened as she looked back at the council delegates. But we will also defend ourselves and our allies with every weapon at our disposal. The days when you could murder human civilians and face no consequences are over. The days when you could dismiss our concerns and ignore our rights are finished. High Curator Vextal's tentacles writhed in desperation. You cannot simply remake the galaxy according to your wishes. There are procedures, laws, traditions that have existed for millennia. Your procedures protected murderers and thieves, Lisa said. Your laws benefited the strong at the expense of the weak. Your traditions were built on the suffering of those who had no voice in this chamber. She gestured toward the displays showing human military assets. We are not asking for your permission to change things. We are informing you that change is happening whether you cooperate or not. The only choice you have is whether that change comes through negotiation or through force. The chamber erupted in panicked voices as delegates realized that humanity was not bluffing. They had the military power to back up their demands and the intelligence network to know exactly where to strike. More importantly, they had already begun turning the victims of the old system into allies of the new one. Lisa Martinez looked around the chamber one final time, taking in the fear and confusion on every alien face. For 5 years she had stood in the same spot and begged these same creatures to treat her people with basic decency. For 5 years she had been ignored, dismissed, and insulted. Now they were all hanging on her every word, terrified of what humanity might do next. The old system is dead, she announced. What we build to replace it will be better for everyone except those who profited from cruelty. Choose your side carefully because we remember who our friends are. 6 hours after Lisa Martinez declared humanity's polite mode off, the galaxy looked completely different. Trade markets crashed as investors realized that human-controlled shipping routes were now closed to species that had supported the old system. Military commanders across dozens of worlds stared at tactical displays, showing human ships in positions they had never expected. The first species to test humanity's resolve was the Talaxian military. War Speaker Kredek had left the hour council session in fury, his wings spread wide in a display of aggression. Within 3 hours he had ordered the 5th Talaxian fleet to break the human blockade around Nexus Prime, a wealthy trading world that had been paying tribute to his people for decades. Admiral Kate Morrison watched from the bridge of the human flagship Retribution as 15 Talaxian warships approached her defensive positions. The bird-like aliens flew in their traditional attack formation designed to intimidate enemies with displays of coordinated aerial maneuvers. Incoming transmission from the Talaxian Fleet Commander, reported Lieutenant Ben Parker, the communications officer. Put him through, Morrison said calmly. War Speaker Kredek's harsh voice filled the bridge. Human vessels, you are trespassing in Talaxian space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Morrison smiled, the same cold smile that Lisa Martinez had worn in the council chamber. War Speaker, this is no longer Talaxian space. The people of Nexus Prime have requested human protection from your tribute demands. We are here to provide that protection. The Nexus Prime government signed a legal contract with the Talaxian Confederacy. We are here to enforce our legitimate business interests. Your contract was signed under threat of military action, Morrison replied. That makes it extortion, not a business arrangement. You have 10 minutes to leave this system peacefully. Kredek's screech of rage came through the speakers clearly. Foolish humans, you face the elite 5th Fleet, veterans of 100 battles. Your pathetic ships will be scattered like dust before our superior tactics. Morrison nodded to her weapons officer. Mr. Collins, show them what superior tactics actually look like. The engagement lasted exactly 4 minutes and 17 seconds. The Talaxian ships had been built for intimidation and traditional fleet combat. The human vessels were smaller but faster, equipped with weapons that the bird-like aliens had never encountered. When the brief battle ended, 3 Talaxian ships were drifting powerless in space, and the rest were fleeing toward their home territory. Warspeaker Credex's personal flagship was among the damaged vessels. Morrison opened a channel to his ship. "Warspeaker, your vessel is disabled, but intact. We are transmitting coordinates for the nearest neutral system where you can make repairs when you get home. Please inform your leaders that humanity is very serious about our new policies." The response was a string of what the translation system marked as extremely offensive language. Meanwhile, High Curator Vexthal was discovering that the Zephyrian pirates who had attacked New Horizon were no longer beyond human reach. 3 hidden human bases activated simultaneously in Zephyrian space. Their long-range sensors immediately locating the pirate ships that had been hiding in the asteroid fields. The pirates had grown comfortable over the years, knowing that their government would protect them from any consequences. They were not prepared for human strike teams that appeared without warning and disabled their ships with surgical precision. Captain Lisa Chen, no relation to the ambassador, led the assault team that captured the pirate leader responsible for the New Horizon massacre. The tentacled creature was dragged from his command chair and found himself face to face with a human soldier whose eyes burned with controlled fury. "You killed 50,000 innocent people," Chen said quietly. 15,000 of them were children. "You are going to answer for every single death." The pirate babbled something about diplomatic immunity and government protection. Chen ignored him and activated her communicator. "Admiral Morrison, this is Strike Team Alpha, primary target secured. All pirate vessels in this system have been disabled or destroyed. We're ready for pickup." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as human forces moved with coordinated precision. The intelligence network that had been gathering information for 30 years now guided military operations that dismantled criminal organizations the Council had ignored for decades. But the most dramatic change came from the species that had been victims of the old system. Within hours of humanity's broadcast, 17 different worlds declared their independence from various forms of alien control. The Nexus Collective found their carefully constructed contracts being torn up by populations that suddenly had protection from retaliation. On the mining world of Kepler-7, workers who had been forced to extract rare metals from mechanical beings celebrated in the streets as human ships arrived to enforce their declaration of freedom. The collective had kept the population in debt slavery for generations, but now their victims had allies with bigger guns. Council Speaker Morden tried to maintain some semblance of order by calling another emergency session, but half the delegates refused to attend. Those who did show up were met by an empty chair where Lisa Martinez used to sit. She had returned to Earth, leaving behind only a simple message: humanity no longer recognizes the authority of this council. Future communications should be directed to our new embassy on Terra Station. Terra Station was a massive human facility that had appeared overnight in neutral space, armed to the teeth and broadcasting an open invitation to any species seeking fair treatment and honest trade. Within days, it was surrounded by ships from dozens of worlds that had never been welcome in the old council chambers. Jake Peterson stood on the observation deck of Terra Station, watching the steady stream of alien vessels arriving to meet with human negotiators. Many belonged to species so small or weak that the Galactic Council had never bothered to acknowledge their existence. Strange how the galaxy looks bigger when you stop letting bullies decide who gets to participate, he said to Captain Rodriguez, the station's commanding officer. The ambassador was right, Rodriguez replied. Peace built on oppression isn't really peace at all. It's just delayed violence. On Earth, Lisa Martinez sat in her new office as Director of Galactic Affairs, reading reports from across human space. The transition was not without problems. Some species were trying to form alliances against humanity. Others were demanding impossible concessions in exchange for cooperation. A few were testing human resolve with minor provocations. But the overall picture was encouraging. Trade was flowing more freely than it had in decades. Piracy had dropped to almost nothing as human patrols made the practice too dangerous to be profitable. Smaller species were emerging from hiding to take their place in a galaxy that suddenly had room for everyone. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on Lisa's communication screen. The Talaxian Confederacy has requested a meeting to discuss new trade agreements. They're offering to recognize the independence of all worlds currently under human protection. What about their tribute system? They claim it was always voluntary and they're perfectly willing to renegotiate all existing contracts. Lisa smiled. It was not the cold smile she had worn in the council chamber, but something warmer and more genuine. How generous of them. Schedule the meeting for next week. Make sure representatives from all the affected worlds are included in the negotiations. And the Zephyrian Collective. They've turned over the pirates responsible for New Horizon and are requesting permission to establish diplomatic relations with our new alliance. I think we can work with them as long as they understand that the old rules no longer apply. Lisa looked out her office window at the stars beyond Earth's atmosphere. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was probably still meeting, still trying to maintain their grip on a system that had already slipped through their fingers. They would adapt eventually or find themselves completely irrelevant. Jake Peterson's voice came through her communicator. Director Martinez, we're receiving requests for membership in the human alliance from 43 different species. Should I start processing the applications? Lisa leaned back in her chair and considered the question. 30 years ago, humanity had joined the galactic community as supplicants, grateful for any acceptance they could find. Now they were being asked to lead a new alliance based on principles they had learned the hard way: respect, fairness, and the understanding that kindness was not weakness. Start with the applications from species that were oppressed under the old system, she said. They understand the value of what we're building here. And Jake, yes, Director, make sure our people remember why we did this. It wasn't about power or revenge. It was about making sure no other species has to watch their children die. While bullies call it the price of peace, Alicia Martinez looked at the reports spread across her desk. each one representing a world that was free to choose its own destiny for the first time in generations. The galaxy was far from perfect, but it was better than it had been that morning, when 50,000 humans floated dead in space, and sometimes making things better was enough.